we'll jump right into the questions. So, just as our first question before we hop into everything DECA related, Aviram, Avian, Ryan, if you guys would like to just introduce yourselves each, and yeah, we'll get started with that.
All right, I'll go ahead first. So my name is Avram Jathesh. I'm a third year DECA member. This is my third year now, and I'm the VP of Career Development for NorCal DAT. So the events that I've been doing in DECA have been like HTOR, EFB, and VBC accounting primarily.
I'll go. I'm Ryan. I'm a senior at Washington High School, and I'm this year's NorCal Vice President of Marketing for NorCal DAT. This is my fourth year competing in DECA, and outside of DECA, I like to read books. I like to watch football.
Hi, my name is Avian. I'm a third year competitor too at Washington High School, and I've also just competed in the same events as Avian.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing how you got started in DECA and what led you guys specifically into VBC accounting.
Well, I was led into VBC accounting by our advisor, Mr. Wu, and he kind of introduced me to the simulation because nobody was really doing it at our school. And he thought might as well let me have a shot. And so I kind of got into it. I started like during class time. That's when I used to get like the most, immersed into the simulation, and I would try fun things with it and go through the entire simulation. And then once I realized I was starting to get good, I actually competed my first year, and yeah, that's how it went from there.
For me, I started competing freshman year, and I was looking at like the virtual business challenges. I saw a virtual business challenge restaurant, and I thought it was like a really interesting and fun simulation because you have to like manage so many things. I didn't do that well in restaurant, but it was like my first introduction into the virtual business challenges, and I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, honestly, for me at least, my first introduction was with Virtual Business Hotel and Virtual Business Fashion, and those are the two ones that I found really fun. I didn't do as well in those ones too, but those are like the two things that got me into virtual business.
All right. So, obviously, we've mentioned how you guys got into VBC, but let's dive a little bit more into exactly what is VBC. So, it can be from all three of you, it can just be each of you guys building on each other, but how would you guys define VBC to someone who's maybe, never competed or never even really heard about what VBC is?
So for the virtual business challenges, the best way I honestly explain it to people is that they're like online simulations of like real world events or scenarios. Like if we were using virtual business sports, you're running your own sports stadium and your own sports company, and you're trying to figure out the best way to make more like profit. It's like real life scenarios, but on a video game. And it's something that kids can like because it's similar to the video games that they play, and it involves real life skills and transactional information that you need to know.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Avian said, all of the virtual business challenges, all of them place an emphasis on making profit other than virtual business accounting, which is based on speed and accuracy for the errors.
Yeah, and I just think in general, virtual business challenges kind of give you a practicality of the various types of businesses that go, like some of the biggest businesses like hotel, fashion, and even accounting. It's like a firm. So these various different kind of fields that the VBCs kind of interact with, it kind of gets you a huge like it gets you immersed into the different types of things you can do.
All right. And with those different fields, what do you guys want to do in the future? And is that sort of related to what VPC does? And how has DECA helped you with what you guys want to do?
So for me, some schools I'm applying as like a finance or accounting major. So definitely my like involvement in DECA has been a huge part of that. It's influenced a lot of my like college career decisions. And also I also plan to like go into math as well. And that also has to do with a lot of accounting and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of my alternate majors, I am applying to econ, and I think that virtual business challenges has helped a lot with like just introducing me to the world of business, like what are all these like different areas of business, what you can do. And it's just kind of like created interest for me to like do something related in the business world.
Yeah, similarly to what Ryan was saying, I'm applying as an econ major itself. So like seeing all these different business scenarios and learning all these economic terms through the virtual businesses has really helped me grasp and understand what I'm going to be doing in the future.
Okay. Well, kind of moving beyond that. So reflecting on, even ICDC, even just like regular rounds of qualification for VBC, what would you guys say has been, the most exciting thing or, what you look most forward to for VBC accounting specifically?
Well, do you mean like during competition, during like what do you mean specifically?
It can also, it can be whatever it is for you. I think it'll differ for everyone. Like to give an example, for me, in my events, I would say the most exciting part was probably, talking to my judge for the first time. Obviously that's it's not the same for VBC, but whatever part of VBC you found the most interesting and the most exciting.
I think for me, the most interesting part, since VBC accounting is a lot about like timing and stuff, the most interesting part for me is kind of like setting up my desk for like the qualifying rounds. I kind of like clear up everything and then I set up everything and then it kind of gets me into that mode so then I can get started on competing. So for me, yeah.
For me, I would say it's just like that speed aspect because it's unique to, all the other virtual business challenges. This one's like the only virtual business challenge where it's based on like literally beating other people to finding the errors. So I think that's like the most interesting part for me.
Yeah, I'd have to give a similar answer to what Ryan was saying, where it's basically just based on speed. The fact that none of the other virtual businesses are based on speed just gives it a unique aspect that just makes it really thrilling when you do good in it compared to everything else, because you at least know like what you can work on for the future compared to the other sims where it's just purely guessing.
All right, cool. And going into more specific questions about VBC accounting, how did you build knowledge for decision making and sort of like the quick reflexes that you do need to have in accounting?
For me, my knowledge from accounting came a lot from like experimentation with the Sims. Like Miss Ru would give us like a lot of practice Sims that we could work with, and during class, I would just work on them and try to understand like the different aspects of accounting because there's so many different like files and different things you can look through, and understanding all of that takes some time. So like running the simulation, just seeing what happens when I change certain things and stuff like that, and especially accounting is just a lot of analysis. So I mean it's mainly just numbers based and just understanding what each number means is a lot about accounting in itself. So
Yeah, for the decision making for the for virtual business accounting, most of it is honestly just like seeing like what are the best strategies that you can do in the simulation to be able to find the errors as efficiently as possible. You just have to play around with the simulation a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It's honestly just like doing like practice over and over again, seeing the different simulations and pointing out specific errors and seeing, oh, maybe this is what I could have done instead of just doing this one immediately.
So, you guys talked a lot about decision making, and I think that's honestly, I think that's one of probably the more complicated skills. But just think about it from a very intro or beginner level. How would you guys like recommend getting started in accounting VBC? And if you guys could, maybe some of you try to answer in the lens of students who have taken accounting and some students who haven't taken accounting. Both sides of the coin.
I mean, it really depends on how much you know, like how you said, people who are already familiar with accounting, it kind of will come naturally. But since the virtual business challenge is more about forensic accounting, where you find errors within the files and stuff like that, it's not directly just writing down the numbers and taking account of all the accounts. It's more of seeing what's wrong exactly with the accounts that have already been taken and seeing where those errors are so that you can actually identify which error is the problem. And then for people who are already familiar with accounting, things like that will kind of come almost inherently. But for those who aren't, it takes, as I said earlier, a lot of practice and like just a lot of time trying to understand the simulation. So
Yeah, for people who haven't like don't know much about accounting, it's obviously going to be much harder for them because they'll have to like learn all the different terms like on the simulation, like timesheet, what is accounts receivable. But for people who have already learned about these terms, it'll be much easier for them to understand how to run the simulation because they know what these terms are, and it'll help them like understand like which areas are connected to what parts of the simulation.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if you are a beginner, you do have to like search up basic information around accounting because that's the only way you'll be able to understand the simulation. Like there's a lot of resources online that people can use to figure out what these terms mean, and it will be like really useful when they actually do the simulation. But, like that's like probably the only real way you could get like do it without having any actual prior experience.
All right. And talking more about the competition aspect of VBC, how different is competition at different tiers? For example, regular rounds versus ICDC.
I mean, ICDC is obviously a lot more stressful. You only have you're physically there, and you kind of have to do it in front of people that like in front of a crowd or whoever's watching, and it's also like you're not at your own kind of setup, so you're having to adapt to whatever supplies that they give you, the mice that they give you, the laptop they give you, and if you're not used to the keyboard, you have to change that as well. So it's simple things like that that kind of make it a little more stressful at the like international stage. But I mean, otherwise, it's more or less the same, other than like the stress level.
Yeah, and ICDC, it's also like honestly just like a really cool experience compared to like just doing like the normal rounds of qualifying. Like at ICDC, they have like this giant like real time scoreboard of all the teams. There's also like a scoreboard on the bottom right to see your rankings among the others. And it's definitely just like as Avram said, it's much more stressful than like normal when qualifying.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that there's also a literal crowd, like for us at least, we had like a lot of our chapter outside of us watching us when we were doing the simulation. So that just really added on to the stress of doing the simulation. But other than that, it's somewhat similar between the two.
All right, cool. Um, so the next one is kind of, about that whole process of building that speed. You're talking about an ICDC, how fast you're going. Do you guys have any tips or I don't know, besides of repetition and just keep going? How do you work on, finding those small errors and building your speed or, practicing with that besides just, repetition back and forth? Did you guys use any external tools or anything?
I mean, the simulation in itself, when it asks you to find the errors, it gives you kind of like small little tips on exactly what they're asking you to look for. So then once you understand what that tip means, then you can like research outside to see exactly how it's applied in different ways. And then from there you can just work towards like finding the error. I mean, there's not much else I can tell you. Like it's kind of it's kind of given to you in the simulation how to do it, but it's just about like how fast you can do it.
Yeah, for finding the errors, you just have to like literally find the best strategies to find, the errors on the simulation, practice it over and over again. And because the errors are always random, you won't know what it is. You just have to like make sure you really know like what is your most efficient way of finding the errors and then just do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, honestly, it's just like it's repetition. You have to just keep doing it, and then you will eventually notice a pattern. And then once you have that pattern, that can be your strategy.
All right, for Ryan, you mentioned some individual ways of finding errors. What do you think are your top tips for recognizing that beyond just like practice?
For some errors, there are definitely like certain patterns that you can see in the simulation. Like if you find like there's just like certain tools inside the simulation that you can use over and over again to like find like the errors. Like one of them, it's like um timesheet is wrong. You just have to go through the timesheets and see the employees and see like if the hours are wrong or not.
Okay. Well, then, onto kind of a real world application. How would you guys say that, specifically the accounting skills and honestly overall experience from VBC, how do you think it's going to translate into your real world endeavors?
Well, for me, I mean, it'll apply into like college majors and stuff like that that I do in the future. But also like I don't know if it'll apply more than that. Depends on what kind of career I go into and beyond that, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I always know that. So hopefully I'll always just know how to do some certain basic accounting.
For me, I think that for virtual business accounting, like it helped me become like a much more like analytical person, which I feel that, in many different like sectors of the business world, like being an analytical thinker will definitely help a lot.
I guess I'll just talk about like for the overall virtual business experience, like through for that at least, that made me like it gained more like it made me force myself to practice a lot more and just having that type of skill where I have to just like keep force myself to keep on practicing no matter what to just make sure I can like maximize profit. Like having that type of like work mindset, just honestly like I think that was something that really helped me a lot.
All right. And have there been any unforeseen challenges within like VBC either this year or last year that you guys prepared for or saw coming or had to deal with in round?
Um, Unforeseen challenges. Well, I just completed one of my sims today, and unfortunately, it didn't go very well. But that is one of my biggest challenges right now. I mean, I'll probably have to move on to the second round and try to qualify through there. But previously, I mean, we didn't face any really big challenges or anything other than having like a competitor from our own school. So it was kind of like a inter-school battle kind of thing during the international stage, which is also there. So yeah.
There was actually, I think, a moment out in CDC where when we were doing the simulation, I think we all tabbed or something like out of the simulation for like a little bit, and we lost like a little bit of time on that. And I think like that was just a really like unfortunate obstacle, but we still did pretty well.
Yeah, I remember there was this one scenario where for the first accounting round, where we did it, but then somebody else, they didn't have their thing set up. So we had to redo the entire round. And that just really messed with us because that just ruined our mindset completely. But we still did really good either way.
All right. And as we get close to wrapping up, kind of the questions that we have and opening it up for questions, this is kind of a two-part question, but what would you guys say is your biggest regret from VBC, and what would you have done differently in your DECA competitions or in your financial journey? These can be two different answers.
I think honestly, just preparing earlier, like not procrastinating on, actually practicing the sim before the competition. Like at ICDC, we procrastinate a lot and we practice until like 4 a.m. the day before the competition, and we're getting like 2 hours of sleep. So I would recommend literally just doing the simulation a lot and not procrastinating.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Ryan. We would just like stay up at like till like 2 doing the sim. Or no, yeah, we would be at Disneyland and then like at 1 a.m. we would just start working on the simulation till 3 and then we would wake up at like 5 just to practice again. And I think that really just messed up us for that was probably like one of my biggest regrets for virtual business.
I think one of my biggest regrets is overthinking things. at ICDC, my team, like, we together often overthought a lot of different things, and it ended up we wasted time on trying to find those errors when they weren't actually there, and we were already set up and like ready to go for the win. But then we kind of like waited, held back, double checked, and then that like screwed up our time, and then it like dropped our ranking as well. And like even now, I overthought like one of the errors, and then that ended up me picking the wrong one. So it can happen. I mean, obviously, you're gonna be very stressed at that time, and it happens if it happens. But like, yeah, you just have to persevere.
All right, wrapping up now, we'll open the floor for some questions. You guys feel free to either unmute or DM some questions.
The first one I have is actually from Rayon. He mentioned, how would you guys motivate members of your chapters to, participate and compete in VBC if you guys don't have a history of it or if they haven't done it before?
I would just say that it's honestly like all the simulations are kind of like computer games, right? And games are fun. So I would just say that to like get them to like at least try out virtual business. And not only that, compared to like some of these events, I feel like the preparation is like a little bit less compared to like some of the written events and like preparing for role plays, like preparing for tests, whatever.
Yeah, I think what Ryan said about the preparation is definitely a huge factor, because if you think you're not that good at like role plays where you have to like be prepared to answer all the PIs, and like the do well on your do well on your tests as well. And it's not easy because it's a lot of hours of preparation for role plays as well as writtens. And where VBC comes in is it's just a lot of practice. It's not, once you get the hang of it, it kind of sticks with you for the rest of your time. And yeah, that helps a lot. I feel like that's a really encouraging aspect of VBC.
Yeah, I feel like honestly with the virtual business challenges, a lot of people could use them as like a substitute to like to their normal video game time. And like honestly thinking the fact that you can go to ICDC for like a video game, I feel like that could just inspire a lot of people to compete in the virtual business challenges.
All right, we got another question from Ishan from a little earlier, and he asked, is it better to do it in fall or spring?
I mean, doing it in fall and trying your best, if you can do well enough to actually qualify, it's really relieving, because then you're kind of already qualified to ICDC before even the DECA season really starts. And doing it in spring is also like perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just a little more stressful during that time, especially with like, for our area, we have NorCal CDC kind of during that time. So it's a lot more like active during the DECA season. But yeah, I would definitely recommend fall. That's when that's when we've qualified so far every year. So yeah, fall is much more like calmer, I think.
Yeah, and adding on to that, you're just coming off of summer break. So you'll have all that preparation that you've done over those 3 months to be able to do it in the fall competition. And I'm pretty sure the spring competition that like I think this year it's colliding with NorCal CDC, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it would be definitely better to do in the fall.
Okay, and one more question we have is, you know, they're just asking you guys to elaborate more on the individual role that each of you guys played in the team during the VBC accounting competition. Like, yeah, just elaborating on what each of you guys did.
Okay, so for the qualifying rounds, I was the one who was doing the simulations. They would come, like we would call and like voice call over and discuss, and I would share my screen while they kind of like help me out. But yeah, I was controlling the computer, and as well as during ICDC, like while physically being there, I was also on the computer, and they were kind of pointing out things that they saw on the side, and I would mainly like run through everything that needed to be done. But yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions that I have. Ella, did you get any other ones?
I'm good on my end as well.
Okay, then yeah, we're just about reaching 6:30. So we'll keep the floor open, but I guess for the time being, we can take our call photo, or are we doing that after? Bobby?
We can just do it now.
Okay. So if you guys are able to, yeah, turn your cameras on and
Hold up the DECA symbol.
putting up our deck of diamonds.
Okay.